action on egg. Is this working? Wardy, is this working?
David Kim in the Darth Sidious outfit. He's like, good, let the hate flow.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Fear Dragon's coverage of the WCS North American Challenger League. Day number 1, I almost said qualifier. It's going to be a very exciting day as expert lags a little bit. We set things up. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be such an awesome day. We got an exciting 16-player double elimination bracket that we're getting started with today. WCS and a Challenger number 3. This is for Jonkapajing? I'm just going to say it's going to be for the big WCS premiere event, because I will never be able to pronounce that name right. It's going to be really cool. We are getting started on this particular stream with Semper versus Bales. This is one of the winners round of 16 matches. There are also going to be some other matches being played on the main stage. We have Neeb versus QXC, which I think Todd will be joining, and Rotterdam, kind of side by side, mainstream does 2 different games at the same time, is going to be doing Scarlet versus Mechanic. I will be doing Bales versus Semper. I know that Wardy is also going to be doing some coverage of things. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of awesome games, and I want to actually let people know I will be covering every single unbroadcasted game. If there is a game that you are sad, why isn't anybody covering this particular series? Do not fret or frown, because I will be covering all of them. Either today after the broadcast is done, depending on how I'm feeling and how long the day goes, or I'll be covering it tomorrow morning before day 2 begins. So you guys will get a chance to see every single one of these games. Ideally, as long as I just don't go absolutely crazy. Let me know when you guys are ready. But let's talk a bit about this first particular series. We do have Semper and Bales. Of course, both these guys, very strong players in the North American scene. Semper, of course, representing OSC Root. He's a Terran player from Canada and is known as probably one of the best drop harassers in the North American scene. In fact, I would argue, and I think nobody would really argue against me when I say that Semper is likely one of the 2 best North American Terran players right now. I guess maybe you could argue for top 3 just because Major is technically included in North American Terrans, even though he's been living in Korea for a bit and all that kind of weird stuff. He doesn't participate in WCS NA Challenger because Latin America is a separate thing. All of that aside, Semper's really damn good, okay? This guy is so much fun to watch as well because he plays a very harassment-based style. Now, he's had some moderate success, and you can actually see they both had a relatively similar level of success with $11,000 approximately won for either side, but Semper, I will say, has said that he's not actually he's feeling kind of iffy right now in terms of his performance, so I'm interested to see how things are going to go against this guy, Bales, who is also known as Solid Bales from Team Elevate, the American Protoss player who's been around in the scene for quite a bit of time and has had up and down results. I think one of the interesting things about Bales is that he has had this sort of somewhat committed presence in the StarCraft scene, but he also sometimes occasionally just kind of goes back and says, I gotta focus on school, I gotta focus on other aspects of life. Things kind of go back and forth for this guy, and because of that, his performance is sometimes up and down, but it seems like Bales has been really playing quite well the past few weeks. He's been obviously doing rather well, qualifying for Challenger in the first place, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what this guy is going to be dishing out as we hop into this particular series. Look at that. We actually see also like that he hasn't really been as active as many other players have been. You can compare the 72 games of recent games that we've seen from Semper versus the 20 games that we've seen from Bales recently. So really not a whole lot of data, but apparently his Protoss versus Terran recently has just been 100% win rate. So not gonna lie, that's pretty damn awesome. Taking a look at the match history between these two guys. Whoa, Semper has really been struggling versus Bales in the past. Now, granted, all of these matches are pre-2017. We got 2016 August a couple of times. We got 2016, it looks like April, and 2015 even. But traditionally, Semper has lost versus Bales. It's been a bit of a kryptonite. But I think that this is probably one of the strongest we've ever seen Semper. And I would say kind of a moderate place for Bales. He's been playing pretty well, but I feel like I've seen times where I would argue Bales is one of the top 3 or 4 Protosses. Actually, I would still say he's probably still one of the top 4 Protosses, but definitely looking like he has something to prove right now, that he is still one of those top players. Okay, I think that we're just waiting on Semper to get ready. I want to remind you guys that if you enjoy any of the map intros that you're going to be seeing today, I want to give a huge credit to Nice Username for making all of them. BRB. Except you can't see my face. XSplit fail again. Oh, yeah. XSplit. Yeah, XSplit's been a little bit wonky sometimes on those scene transitions for some reason. I don't know what it is. It's ever since I reinstalled on Windows 10 instead of Windows 7, so. Yep, I got it. Okay, well, the players are ready, so we're getting started as we hop into Ascension to Ire for game number 1. This may actually be the very first series that's getting started at all, because these two players are super on top of it. We got WCS Game Heart mod overlay on as well, so we'll see you guys there on Ascension to Ire. Welcome to game number 1, the first broadcasted match of WCS NA Challenger number 3. We have, spawned down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, the red Terran player. Give it up for OSC Roots Semper. And his opponent spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Protoss player from Team Elevate. It is Solid Bales, aka just Bales, but I always liked his tag, Solid Bales. I believe that's still his Twitch username. Used to be in the clan Solid, but he's just a solid player. I think it's one of my favorite things about him is that he's not one of those super duper cheeky Protosses that goes all in all the time. He's not a Haas. He's not some player that is just renowned for making adepts, or I guess that's kind of what he got famous for or anything like that. No, not shots fired at Peely Peely a little bit. I love Peely, but that is what he kind of got famous for. He got famous for going a little bit cheeky all-in-y all the time. And even he will admit that. But, no, Bales is known for his sort of macro-oriented play. And especially, I think he really got known, mostly for his Protoss versus Zerg, where his Phoenix control was just out of this world good. Bales was that one guy that when Phoenixes had faded completely out of the meta, I'm saying like 6 months out of the meta, nobody made Phoenix anymore. Bales would still make Phoenix and make them work. His opponents would even know that Bales made Phoenix. They would say, yeah, this Bales, he makes Phoenix in PvZ. Let's prepare for the Phoenix. Let's get up our Spore Calls. We're not going to be caught off guard. And he would still get the damage done and at least take into an even game oftentimes. And that's one of my favorite things about Bales. And I bring up all of this, even though it's Protoss versus Zerg, because in Protoss versus Terran, one of the most common things that we end up seeing in terms of openings from Protoss players are that one gateway Stargate openings. Now, we aren't going to be seeing that this game. We're seeing the Twilight Council, but this is a best of 5, and that means that there's always that opportunity later on. Kind of interesting, Bale's actually not opting to go for any of those early pylons at his natural expansion just yet, so it's really going to delay any kind of forward, I guess, positioning. You also notice that Semper moved across the map, kind of got that early scout out, but really just staying quite defensive with that Reaper. This probe for Bales also getting a little bit sneaky, looking around for things. I guess he hasn't seen anything. He hasn't gone for any scout whatsoever, and he hasn't seen a Reaper. So this is setting off a couple of potential alarm bells for Bales. He's scouting around for proxies. Those proxy factory reactors for Cyclone all-ins can be a little bit scary if you're not totally prepared for them. But no, it's totally normal builds from Semper, it looks like. We got a Widow Mine coming out. It looks like it's going to be a really quick Widow Mine drop with a handful of Marines. Finally, the Reaper pokes in, and I think this is going to be a nice little safe peace of mind for Bales now. Knowing, okay, it's nothing super duper crazy weird, it looks like. He hasn't scouted any proxies. He sees that the Reaper is just playing a little bit defensive. And, Reaper gets a beautiful scout out, sees the Robo, sees 2 of the gateways, is not going to see the Twilight Council, but he can kind of assume the most important thing I think here is to scout out, okay, you didn't go for a really quick Stargate. I don't have to worry about getting up a missile turret in my mineral line or an engineering bay or repositioning all of my Marines. I can play a little bit safe. Or sorry, I can play a little bit more aggressive. The only thing he might have to worry about later on is that War Prism harassment, but for now, this is going to be a Blink Stalker opening from Bales. Blink Stalkers, not exactly the thing that I personally have seen a lot of lately. This is a fairly defensive style, and it's great for defending against drops. It's great for trying to deal with that Widow Mine harassment. You get out the Observer, but ooh, this is going to be a Warp Prism with Blink Stalkers. Okay, is Bales looking to get aggressive with this, or is the Warp Prism just going to be there to warp in some Adepts and get a little bit aggressive? We do also have a Robotics Bay coming out, but here we go. Drop comes in. Bales is moving the Monster Core into the right position. He does get the Photon Overcharge off in time to take out that first Widow Mine. 0 damage done so far. The Stalker is going to be greeting that Medevac over the natural expansion. Oh my god, the Medevac's boost is on cooldown. He does lose the Medevac with all of the units inside. A flawless game from Bales so far, as Semper going to be in a lot of trouble because Bales, he did a very quick tech up in a Robotics Bay. Now, Semper, theoretically, if he was paying attention, if he clicked on all these buildings like a good Terran should, he should have seen that Robotics Bay being built. So, you should know. Really quick Colossus likely coming out. That is a more common thing to see in the matchup, if you are going to go for that kind of Blink Stalker play, I suppose. Bales, of course, also sees, I think he might have seen the siege tank, just barely. He moved his observer a little bit further back because he saw the missile turret coming up. Something that I always forget to do. I see that, or sorry, yeah, the missile turret coming up, and it's just like, okay, well, I guess my observer is destined to die now. Thank you for that scouting information. But third expansion coming out. Bales is feeling good, shutting down that aggression from Semper. Now, something I want to note. I mentioned that Semper is a drop-oriented player. He's a player that really likes to put on that aggression, but it's not early game aggression that he's renowned for. It's the mid and late game aggression. It's when he has a booming economy, he has a lot of resources to throw at his opponent, and he can put the pressure on from multiple different fronts. And he hasn't really gotten to that stage just yet. He's playing rather defensive. With all the siege tanks you can see, he's definitely going to be very, very pushed back. This factory still has that tech lab, only now swapping out after getting out 3 siege tanks. He's going to pump up that medevac count. He's going to pump up that marine and marauder count, get some of those upgrades, but his third expansion is going to be rather delayed compared to Bales's. Well, it's not exactly significantly further delay if you look at the build times, but it is going to be about the fact that it's not anywhere close to being on location, so he has to float it over, turn it into orbital command. Takes a little bit more time. But okay, charge going to be coming out for Bales. He's got his double upgrades being chrono boosted out. And I got started on those upgrades a little bit later than Semper, who's now finishing up +1 weapons. But considering there's no engagements coming out, Bales will probably feel pretty good about this. Is there an armory done for Semper? It doesn't look like it. No, unfortunately, Semper is not going to be able to get started on +2/+2 anytime soon. Whereas Bales, I mean, that Twilight Council is finished up. He can start +2/+2 as soon as these forges finish things up. And, well, Bales sees the move out with the Observer. Well positioned. Phoenix also moving in, trying to get a scout out. See what he can find. He does scout out the 3rd command center. Has not been placed down just yet on location, but the orbital command is finished up. And Semper, ooh, he catches the Observer. Nicely done. Not easy to scout those out. Really, really not easy. But as he moves out, I really feel like Semper has to do something, because once Bales gets up to 3 to 4 Colossus and there's Semper who has 1 Viking out on the map, is going to get really, really dicey. It looks like the Warp Prism getting a little bit of damage done. 2 workers killed off, but the Warp Prism making out of here is going to be the most important thing. Bales not quite catching the Warp Prism. Oh man, he loses sight of it for a moment and ends up losing it, unfortunately. 2 workers would have been fine if he had been able to get out of there, even if he lost all those adepts, but losing the Warp Prism really does hurt. Because it's not just about the harassment capabilities, it's about the fact that you don't want to lose time on that robotics facility. He's pumping out Colossus right now. He wants to get out more and more of these, and eventually you want to have that Warp Prism for the big attack. But now he has to delay another Colossus to get out another Warp Prism, or at least set up a proxy pylon, but that's much more rare to see these days. Luckily for Bales, he looks like he's going to be on the defensive and won't need that Warp Prism for a little bit. Semper is starting to move forward. There aren't that many stalkers around for Bales. He's got a few up in his main base, ready to deal with any kind of drop harassment, but the problem is all of these Liberators are going to be able to get sieged up without a whole lot of counter pressure. Bales also maybe on cooldown a lot of these weapons. Oh god, these Zealots all lose a lot of their shields. The rest of the Colossus and the Stalkers try and make their way further down south. Liberators sieging up in a decent spot, making it very awkward, but Bales has already pre-split his army pretty damn well, so he can come in from multiple angles, not feel too choked up engaging into this. The Colossus also able to whittle away at things. Stalkers eating a lot of these siege tank shots. They blink forward, target firing down all these Liberators. Looks like all of them are going to go down, and Bales is absolutely cleaning house right now. This Colossus count just cannot be contended with. In the meanwhile, Semper loses so many of those valuable Liberators. Doesn't have any kind of counter harassment on the north side of the map or anything. Bales has a Templar Archives now finished up with Storm unresearched, granted, but he can start making those Archons. Oh, this is a nice little play. Moves back in with the 4 Medivacs that had to boost out of there earlier, but Photon Overcharge plus a couple of Zealots, well upgraded Zealots might I add, with +2/+2 just finishing up. It looks like Bales, even though he's not that far ahead in supply, should be in a really good spot to just take this game. Look at the lack of Medivacs over here. There's just no sustainability in Semper's army anymore versus some very high-tech Colossus that are just whittling away at this army. Most of the Zealots have been cleaned up, but then someone of the Colossus is taking out a refinery, so it looks like Bales will get pushed back, but oh, nice drop from behind. He's going to split up some of that DPS, but no, Bales has some good target fire, takes out a lot of the bio. He is going to be able to get a full surround, though, and eventually take out these Colossus. Oh, Bales saves one of the Colossus at least, but man, was it worth it. Bales loses a lot of very important tech units, but at the same time, he's finished up his Templar Archives. He's ahead on those upgrades by a lot, with 3/3 now starting up. He's got a 4th expansion finishing up, whereas Semper does not even have a fully mining 3rd expansion, considering he just lost 20-some workers. I still give a huge edge right now to Bales in this situation, especially with those Archons now added into the mix. +2 weapon Archons and +3 on the way. It's still possible for Semper, though. It's not over until the fat lady sings. And man, Semper is no fat lady, but that just means he's not going to be singing anytime soon. Zelnaga Watchtower catches Bales' army moving out. This makes it an opportune moment for Semper to move out across the map. He can get a guaranteed kill potentially on this 4th expansion if he just stims and goes for it. There really is not going to be a whole lot of defense over here. Going after the pylon to shut down any potential warp-ins. And it looks like this is going to turn into a weird base trade. And that's the one situation a Temperanus player does not want to get into against a Terran. Liberator's also taking some pretty good fights over here, taking out most of the Archons. The Colossus also going to be relatively undefended. A lot of the Stalkers have gone down. Even though Bales does prevail over here, Semper's doing a pretty significant amount of damage. Oh my god, he's moving over to the 3rd now. There's only 2 photon cannons over here. Semper is taking this into the exact kind of fight he needs to. Another Archon is going to end up falling to the Liberator, as well as some of these bio reinforcements. Another Colossus getting very low on health. It is going to survive, but man, Semper just needs to start continuing to trade out exactly as he is so far. Bales' economy has been completely disrupted. Granted, Semper's economy isn't much better, but never base trade a Terran. It's a golden rule of any matchup versus a Terran player. Bales has lost so many of his workers, and while Semper has done the same, Semper does have an orbital command on the low ground. He can float it away, he can run around to the corners, he can play a very roundabout game, and he's taking out more and more of these units. Liberator sieging up, trying to take out any of the Stalkers he can muster to kill. And Bales' attention is kind of split up between all these different locations. Looks like some of the Archons and Colossus do clean up that army or push it back finally, but Bales is down to just one, no, not even one mining base. This is a quarter, a third of a mining base, maybe even a fifth of a mining base. Still, Bales has the army supply lead, and he can shut down a lot of this economy. Liberator Siege is up, gonna look for some good kills, but the two Stalkers blink to a nice spot. And this might be enough for Bales to take this. He takes out every single last remaining SCV, all but one remain. Two Mules trying to mine a little bit more, but that's not gonna be enough. GG is called. Bales takes game number 1 in this best of 5. Okay, okay. Well, Bales with a very, very solid game number 1. Looked a little bit scary in there. I would be lying if I said that was a very, very unbelievably solid and clean game, because it got scary when they turned to a base trade. Semper did the best with the situation he was left with toward the end after having lost so much of that big engagement over on the left-hand side of the map. I think that Bales just got away with a little bit too much. We're going to hop into game number 2, as the map is going to be Proxima Station. Okay. Now, I think this is a map that Semper may be a little bit happier with, just because there's a lot more opportunities for kind of drop harassment and making the damage happen. We did see Bales try to go for some of that Warp Prism harassment, but quite frankly, I think compared to the kind of harassment style that Semper will oftentimes try to put on, it was significantly less, and taking advantage of the map is a really important part of it. We'll see if Bales decides to play things out a little bit differently. There are some kind of Oracle openings that have become very common in Protoss versus Terran. Phoenix openings just to shut down some of the Liberator harassment on this map especially may be pretty nice. Looks like Bales wants a few minutes to prepare. He just says he needs 5 minutes. For those who are not familiar, by the way, as I only just learned this, Bales is currently on the West Coast right now. Traditionally a player that's over on the East Coast, but currently on the West Coast at the Root Gaming House playing on let me find his exact words for it. Well, hold on. I think this was actually in my chat with him. Playing on a shitty setup at Katz's place. So he's over at the Root OSC house. OSC Root house. But still apparently playing pretty damn well. I'm not gonna lie. Pretty impressive. Semper, I think, was saying that he wasn't feeling as great earlier on today. He took a bit of a walk, cleared his mind, got ready for WCS Challenger, and is really hoping he's going to be able to do well. The winner of this series, by the way, is going to go on to face off versus the winner of Scarlet and M. Canning, who I think a lot of people will say, most likely, no offense to M. Canning, it's going to be Scarlet most likely, unless M. Canning can do some kind of upset, because Scarlet is still just an unbelievable goddess of the North American scene. She's been a little bit volatile at times, and of course she's been a little bit trolly at times. Considering WCS NA Challenger Season 1, she decided to play Protoss instead of Zerg, her main race, for most of the matches, which were mostly ZVZs. So you wanted to avoid the ZVZ, and instead opted to play Protoss versus Zerg. But, that aside, Scarlet's still very, very scary. And she won't have to worry about any ZVZs. Not at least until the winter semifinals, where she could face off versus either Game Time Volts or True. Now, I want to remind you guys one more time that there are some other series going on. Wardy should be broadcasting a series. I'm not too sure what he's opted to broadcast this time, but I know that the mainstream is covering both me versus QXC, as well as, I believe it was Scarlet versus M. Canning. So the winner of this series is going to go on to face off one of the other series that the mainstream is covering. So be sure to check that out. I don't know if there are any other streams covering. No, it looks like those are, we are the 3 main streams that are covering WCS today. So Rotterdam, Todd, Wardy, and I bringing you coverage of things. But yeah, should be pretty fun. Let me know if there are any particular series you want to see. But of course, if there are any series you want to see but are really sad don't end up getting covered, like let's say Puck versus Game Time. You're a big Game Time fan or a Puck fan like I am. I'm a fan of both of those guys. And I was really having a hard time deciding which one of these two guys did I want to actually watch, or these two series. And eventually I just sort of decided, Bales versus Semper, let's do it. But I'm going to be casting all of the replays of all of the unbroadcasted matches tomorrow. So if you don't see your series covered, don't sweat it, because it will eventually be covered. I also just realized I do not have my map intro ready for this, so let me go ahead and set that up. As long as we're waiting for Bales to finish things up. Let's see. Yeah, let's get this over here. This is Proxima Station. Sweet. Okay. And I might have to reopen my script. I have a kind of crazy, complex setup for broadcasting, so do forgive me, as this is going to take all of my attention to try and figure out how to update. So let's see, I got to close that. I got to rename this to be a text file so I can edit it. Okay. You know what I'm actually going to do? Just because it'll be more entertaining than just watching me kind of flounder around, setting up scripts and stuff. I'm going to bring it to some downtime content. For those who don't know or are not familiar with my channel, I do not just let it sit on a static screen when we go to breaks. I play content for you. All kinds of random other stuff, including stuff from SC2HL, who allow me to play their videos, as well as some random other very, very dumb stuff that I made myself. So please enjoy this while we get the next game set up. I promise you, as soon as that game is ready, we'll be hopping into it.
Hello everyone, my name is Loco and welcome to the second episode of Top 5 Community Plays. On number 5 we have Young Kwon Yu with a very nice creep tumor block. He places the creep tumor on the perfect moment, blocking the Hellions and denying them valuable scouting information. Number 4. For number 4, the Terran player Granite sees a pylon. He has one mission, killing the pylon. He damages it quite a bit with the SCV, but the Protoss finally reacts. However, he sends out a Marine. He builds an engineering bay, granting him high ground vision. And he manages to snipe the pylon. On number 3 we have the Korean Zerg My Life for SC2, who has a huge fungal, 40 Mutalisk. The Zerg instantly leaves after his Mutas died. Let's look at that again. On number 2 we have the same Zerg player,
Hello. Thank you so much for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. We're hopping into game number 2 as we start up here in the top right-hand corner of the map. Top of the blue Protoss player from Team Elevate and sitting up 1-0 in this best of 5. Give it up for Bales. And his opponent. Spawning down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, the purple Terran player from OSC Root. Give it up for Semper, who still has a good number of opportunities to come back in this series. Since in a best of 5, you know what? Being down a game, it sucks. Obviously not a position you want to be in, but you have some time. You have still an opportunity or a lifeline to play around with some other types of things. You got some different maps you can try out, and you can just not worry too much about how that game number 1 went. Try and learn a few things and adjust whatever playstyle things you need to adjust. Now, Proxima Station, a map notorious for the Liberator harassment at this particular location right here. You move that Liberator in back behind this area. You siege up over here. The Stalkers all try and set up over there. You immediately unsiege, siege up over here. The Stalkers have to make this long journey all the way around back over here, funnel through that little mineral line, try and catch that Liberator. And by that time, Liberator's already moved on. But, ooh, we got a very fast Stargate coming out. And guess who scouts this out with a, not even that fast of an SCV scout. Semper gonna catch wind of the Stargate opening. But, again, because this is such a common map for those Liberator harassments, and even just having a medevac floating back behind this natural expansion mineral line, or Liberator sieging up over on this angle, just because it's such a nice map for drop harassment, it doesn't surprise me in the slightest to see a Stargate opening. You can make the Oracle, obviously, to put on some of your own harassment. You make the Phoenix to deal with a lot of that kind of drop harassment or Liberator harassment that can just sit in the corner waiting for you to move out. It really just does cover a lot of different angles that your opponent can harass you from. We do have the Widow Mine drop going to be coming out once again from Semper. Seems like it's going to be his kind of tried and true this particular series. And we'll see when Bales decides to really step out into Twilight Council, get up to Colossus and everything, because I think that that is something Bales has been feeling rather confident with lately. It's a lot of that Colossus play. As you could tell in that last game, I think that's one of his stronger suits of play. It's just playing that somewhat more defensive playstyle while putting on little bits of aggression. And I think that's one of the reasons why his Phoenix play used to be so strong, because that's exactly what Phoenix play was. It was trying to macro up back at home while you put on little bits of aggression with the Phoenix. You're just maintaining that presence out on the map, keeping your opponent busy while you rely on your solid mechanics. Interesting move out over here. This is a very unorthodox move out, but it's going to potentially catch Bales a bit by surprise, because he's got, what, 2 Adepts. Warp Gate technology is finishing up, but he's only sitting on 1 Warp Gate. And with the 3rd expansion having no pylons over here, this could very realistically force a complete cancel. Nexus is already going to be losing a majority of its shields. Phoenix is going to be coming out, but the Oracle is on the other side of the map. Hasn't been able to actually do any kind of damage so far. Oracle is going to try and come back and maybe engage against the Marines. The Marines starting to get pushed back, and it looks like Bales will be able to defend this. He didn't lose too much health beyond just the shields. Looks like he's going to finish off with maybe around 75% health, but now the medevac's in the mix. The Cyclone's going to add in a lot of extra DPS over here. Oracle, got to be careful. He only loses shields on that, but those are shields that he could have used right now. And this has to be the moment that Bales just has to go for it. He lifts up the Cyclone to cut down on the DPS. Mothership Core gets taken out. The Oracle finally comes back in, and it seems like that gets focus fire down. Beautiful focus firing over here from Semper. Even if he doesn't get the Nexus, as it looks like he will get cleaned up, there was a huge cost that came with it for Bales over here to defend. And even then, look at this. The friggin' Cyclone is still taking out some of these remaining Adepts. One last Marine gets taken out, and the Phoenix all survive, but oh god, so much damage done. 4 Adepts, an Oracle, and a Mothership Core. Now granted, it looks like the medevac did end up going down, as well as a handful of the Marines and the Cyclone, but that was 100% worth it for Semper. I want to say, did he have to cut too much to get out all those units? I mean, that was a very odd push of it. I feel like it's just because he walked across the map at an odd time. I'm sure he would have loved to have gotten that Nexus. It got relatively low in health. It's going to start to regenerate those shields. Looks like the Phoenix just going to be darting around. And, well, now Bales is kind of committed to making a lot of these Phoenix to put the pressure on. Hopefully we'll get to see some of that Bales Phoenix control I was hyping up so very much. But for now, there's not a whole lot of angles he can really attack in with. There's a decent number of Marines spread out around. There's a missile turret finishing up inside the main mineral line, and the natural expansion already has one as well. Instead, Bale's just going to go straight into Resonating Glaze and going into Phoenix Adept. Now, Phoenix Adept had a big drop-off after the Adepts got nerfed. Kind of interestingly enough, it's not necessarily a drop-off because, oh, Okay, never mind. Hard to tell. From this angle, it looks like the Widowmine and the Oracle are much closer than they really are. But move over here and see. They are relatively far apart. Not even in vision range. But yeah, it's not even necessarily that Phoenix Adept is a terrible playstyle, just that it can't work anymore. In fact, it can be very, very effective, even still to this day. But Protosses have learned to kind of experiment with a lot more other playstyles that are transition out a little bit better, I would say. And it seems like this game, it may be a kind of nice way to play. Bales can shut down that medevac count, shut down the harassment again on this map that is very good for harassment. And we'll see what he can make work with it, but he's got to stay aggressive out on the map. And I don't know how I feel about just staying so passive with this many Phoenix. I feel like this is the time you really want to be moving around. You do have to be a bit careful about the Widow Mines, and maybe that's what he's really afraid of right now. Running your Phoenix over even just 2 Widow Mines, you can suddenly start losing massive numbers of them, and that's a huge sunk cost at that point. 4 medevacs load on up, though. Do we have... Okay, so the robotics facility is finishing up now. This is the second robo, but he doesn't have any observers out just yet. In fact, he's getting out a warp prism. Okay, he does have that one observer now. Just popped. I was going to say, he's going to need them for some of these Widow Mines. Just relying on the Oracle is not going to go too smoothly unless you're just an absolute legend. Widowmine burrowing. Semper looking for an opportunity to get some damage done. Both these players have established their thirds and have pretty good mining coming out from both sides. The Semper, is he going to go after the rocks or no? He's just going to leave the rocks there and try and drop straight into the natural expansion. Bale's going to be very far out of position right now, but all the Phoenix are over here on the left-hand side. That means that as soon as this drop all tries to pick up, those Phoenix are going to swoop in and make sure that Semper cannot escape without a terrible, terrible cost. But losing the robotics bay, losing a robotics facility as well, losing a couple of the Phoenix. This is not going well in the slightest for Bales. Finally, the pickup is forced, but oh god, the Widowmine killing off even more of those Phoenix. Only 1 medevac ends up falling, and a handful of the bio as well, sure, but Semper is just getting such good trades this game. 2 more medevacs going to be coming out, and if Semper can just keep these units alive for a little bit longer, I mean, he's taking care of so many of the Phoenix that I think he's not going to have any trouble just leaving them alive for now. And putting the pressure on, making Bales know and feel, oh god! Oh, so much damage done to these Adepts, taking off the shields. And now the 2 medevacs are going to come in from the left-hand side. He's got some units moving straight down the center. This is the exact kind of aggression that I was talking about we see from Semper. Robotics Way is going to be coming up, but guess what? There's 2 medevacs worth of units ready to try and snipe some stuff off. Looks like the Colossus is going to help defend over here. Those medevacs try and make their way over to the 3rd expansion, but finding a lot of the Phoenix. Bales' defense is so on point right now. Is not letting any of this stuff phase him. He took a lot of damage earlier on. Definitely suffered, losing a lot of that really important tech, but keep the robotics bay alive a little bit longer this time. Is going to have a lot of Adepts situated and prepared to defend it. I like the fact that he's starting to throw down some photon cannons now. You got those minerals. Make use of them. You cannot afford to lose that tech too easily. 2 workers go down, but the Phoenixes are going to make this very much worth it for Bale to clean up. He's going to kill off all of the medevacs and all of the bio over there. Well, almost all the medevacs. Seems like he might be going medevac hunting for some of the other ones further out. Behind this, we did see the Fusion Core already research that advanced ballistic missiles for the Liberators. That's the Liberator range upgrade. And a fair number of Liberators out. We got 5 Liberators. Problem is, Semper's been losing so many of these medevacs. His only medevac until just a second ago when the second one popped was actually that one out on the other side of the map that's now trying to float its way on home. So every stim is going to be very costly for Semper. His 4th expansion is established now, though, and that's going to be where his big advantage, I feel like, will lie. We got even upgrades from both sides. Bale's fallen a little bit further behind in terms of upgrades since he has +2 armor finishing up, but no +2 weapons. Kind of surprising considering he is going for so many of these Colossus. Normally, the weapon upgrades really do take a bit of priority for Protoss players. But, you know, armor, very, very helpful on these Adepts as well as Zealots. Trying to soak up that bio damage. This might be the golden window of opportunity because the game is only going to become a little bit harder and weirder, I feel like, for Bales as it goes on. As that Liberator count continues to build up, Bales just does not have that many Stalkers. Only 7 Stalkers to deal with, what is that, almost 6 Liberators? That's almost a Stalker per Liberator. But Temp is now coming out. Fleet Beacon did finish up. 4th expansion is just so much later for Bales, though. He has to do something with this, but I just don't know if he can. I don't know if he can push in. And Semper's now moving out with 3 medevacs worth of units. Might even catch the Warp Prism if he's lucky. Scans going down, and he's just continuing to siege those Liberators up further and further forward. Adepts trying to get a scout out, and I don't know if Bales has identified that there are in fact ghosts out now for Semper. Well, these Adepts not going to get too much damage done, but allows Bales to poke a little bit further forward. Unfortunately, he's poking forward into a lot of Liberators. Looks like the Phoenix do catch all of the medevacs. Well, all the units do manage to unload in time, so they're at least going to trade out for a couple of Adepts, but most certainly not exactly the trade that Semper would have liked. And that is the power of keeping these Phoenix alive, even though Bales has lost quite a few of them. It is very, very annoying to deal with. Liberators realizing, you know, I actually don't want to engage into that Tempest by myself. But he realizes he has enough Liberators that he can just siege up reliably forward, continue to push Bales further and further back. His Colossus really cannot contend with the Liberator count. And these Stalkers can't really either. God, this number of Liberator siege ups is kind of absurd. Bales really needs a lot more of these Tempests to really take an engagement against this. He needs to be able to whittle away faster at this army than just 1 or 2 at a time. These next 2 Tempests are joining the fray, and that's going to make a bit of a difference. I think when you get to 4 or 5 Tempests, that's really where you start being able to take out these Liberators much, much quicker and actually start taking some engagements. Oh my god, great EMP is going down. Bales is also now at a very weird angle where if he wants to retreat back home to defend, he might actually get cut off if these rocks get knocked down fast enough, but no, Semper's not going to commit over there. A couple of Adepts also looking for an opportunity to get some damage done. Gonna go after these rocks and try and do exactly what we were talking about, but the other way around. Oh god, the Widow Mines! Oh, 4 Widow Mines going off, doing a lot of damage to the Stalkers. Something that, again, Bales cannot afford to lose a lot of right now. It's become a bit of a stalemate. Both these players have to back up, but now we're finally at that point where I feel as though Bales went through that stage where as the game went on, he was going to be sitting further and further behind because the Liberator count grew to this ridiculous number. But now it's starting to shift back in Bales' favor, I feel. Even with the Ghost coming out, with the Tempest all coming out, we have Storm also being researched. We have good upgrades coming out right now for Bales. It's, well, +3 weapons and also some of those air armor upgrades, or air weapon upgrades. Oh, Warp Prism gets taken out. Only gets 1 Zealot warped in. But these Tempests really are going to make or break the difference, I think, for Bales. You can continue to whittle away at the army to trade just slightly more cost efficiently. Oh god, but not if he keeps eating those Widow Mine hits. Okay, well that is a pretty juicy disruptor attack. But man, he really needs an observer. Where are his observers? He's got 1 observer down over here in the bottom right. Bales, please. I know these disruptors are important, but make an observer, damn it. Okay, some good storms and some good Tempest attacks could really do a lot of damage to these Liberators. There's a storm, gets a handful of these Liberators, takes most of them down to very low hit points, but now the Viking count is also built up, so these Tempests going to be finally under some actual fire. This becomes a very odd late game for both of these guys. It really is about how much of your army composition do you invest into each kind of tech. Bales wants to get up some of these High Templar, but not so many that is just reliant on them and could end up dying to a couple of good EMPs. He also wants to get up some Tempests, but not so many that the Vikings are just going to obliterate them. gold expansion is going to fall rather quickly. And the same thing goes, by the way, for Semper. He can't over-invest into these Vikings, into the Liberators, because a couple of good storms land on these guys, then he is in a world of trouble. Oh, there go most of the ghosts. One final ghost does go for an EMP, but it gets fed back. I think it got an EMP off on some of the units at least. Bale's maybe in a little bit of trouble over here. He's going to be relying on some storms. I think he has one available in a couple of seconds. Man, his Phoenix count has just been massacred at this point. There's a storm, getting a lot of the Vikings a bit lower in health as one. Tempest not getting the memo that there was an engagement going on a bit of autopilot. Disruptor's also pushing things back. Good storms locking down so much damage on these Vikings. But now Bales is engaging into the Liberators. He just doesn't have the cleanup on them, though. 2 Tempests remain, and they are getting some okay damage done, but Bale's just losing so much in exchange, and he is the one on the defensive. Okay, he's taking care of most of the Vikings, but a few more come rallying in. Even a Void Ray being made. An interesting decision to try and go after some of these Vikings and the Liberators. Butch and overcharge, very important over here. Bales is starting to circumvent the army, coming in for a bit of a surround, going for a big disruptor hit, potentially, I think, on some of the units underneath it. You can't see them, but there are some units underneath. Oh, but he ends up losing them on the disruptor, the immortal, everything ends up going down. GG gets called Semper. They're a very scrappy game. It's game number 2, tying up the series 1-1. Okay. I apologize for some of those little crackles, but seems like we also have some updates. Thank you so much, Poison, for letting us know. Neeb going for the 3-0 on QXC, and Scarlet now saying 2-1 versus, it was M Canning, right? Yeah. So M Canning managed to take a game. It's not over for M Canning. It's definitely not over. We hop into game number 3 as we got at least 2 more games left over as we hop into Defender's Landing. The map that, ironically, is not a great defensive map. There's a lot about this map that is left to be desired if you are on the defense. Sure, the cooling tower can be nice on this map, but ugh. Having 2 different entrances to your base, having very short rush distances across the map. The funny thing is, I feel like both of these guys, while both of them have cheesed in the past before, they're not just these players that have never cheesed before. Both of them I traditionally don't think of as common cheesers. They do it as a mix-up very so often. Not very often. Every so often, very uncommonly. Looks like Semper needs a few minutes. That's okay, because Bale still needs to be invited to the game. Do we have any other bracket updates? Well, for those who are wondering, we can go over the rest of the bracket that at least exists. So, Neeb took the 3-0 over QXC. He's going to face off versus the winner of Masa and Silky. You might be wondering, well, Masa's really freaking good. How are Masa and Neeb going to be facing off against each other this soon in the bracket? And the answer for that is all the seeding is done by WCS points. And Masa, unfortunately, just doesn't have that many WCS points, whereas, of course, Neeb has a lot because he won the first WCS event. Or not the first one, but he won DreamHack Austin, so. Did rather well for himself in terms of WCS points. Interestingly enough, though, a lot of people will just say, oh, you know, Neeb gonna take that easily. Masa defeated Neeb 4-3 just this past Sunday in a King of the North show match series. So there is this kind of weird potential that Masa could very well take it. A lot of very scrappy games against Neeb. That's very possible. He proxied 6 out of 7 games. Just worth noting. But that's the funny thing. He even told Neeb, I am going to proxy against you every single one of these games. And then he did, and Neeb was still losing a lot of those games. So that's a scary thought when there's this player that's cheesing you, telling you that they're going to cheese you and how they're going to do it, but still winning. That's not something you oftentimes see, but that is that kind of weird awesomeness that comes with Masa, the one true Maru. Okay. Looks like Bales' game crashed. So I guess we're going to hop to another break. I promise, guys, I'm not doing this because I want to. I'm doing this because Bales is relaunching his game, and Semper asked for a few minutes. So we'll be back as soon as these players are ready to hop into Defender's Landing on game number 3. See you guys in a little bit. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, in game number 3 as we start down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, top of the player from OSC Root. Put your hands together for the purple Terran, Semper. And his opponent spawning up here in the top right-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Protoss player representing Team Elevate Gaming. Give it up for Bales. As this is now almost turned into a best of 3, effectively, since was a best of 5. Now that since they're tied up 1-1, they just need to win 2 games. And ooh, Bales maybe looking to get a little bit cheeky, sending out a pretty early probe that is not going in the same path you would normally scout with. Going for a location where you could oftentimes go for a proxy with, maybe somewhere around here. Okay, looks like he's redeciding where he wants to place down that pylon. Goes for it. There it is. And this is what I was talking about. Bales not afraid to throw out the cheese, but not necessarily known for it. SCV's going to come in over here, and if Bales is, well, I guess if Semper is paying attention, he should know. Wait a second. One pylon didn't quite scout behind the mineral line, so he doesn't necessarily know where's your second pylon, but should be saying, okay, wait a second. You didn't quite have a nexus down just yet, and I didn't exactly see anything coming out of the gateway, so what's the deal? Goes to the engineering bay block, but does he know? Oh, pylon coming down the low ground. Bales is trying to fake this out a little bit. He also does want to clean this up as soon as possible, but the Stargate coming out, and Semper knows. Semper absolutely knows. He's moving around into potential locations. He's going to eventually scout this out and confirm it, but he's already getting that engineering bay. No, that was just the engineering bay over here, so it looks like he's not going to get up any missile turrets. Might just be relying on a Widow Mine or something, or a Cyclone, safety Cyclone to come out and help defend against this. But definitely identifying, okay, there's still no gateway units coming out. This undoubtedly has to be some kind of cheeky all-in, and there we see it. SCV scouts out the Stargate and sees the Oracle coming out. It's going to be accompanied by some pylons over in the low ground with some photon overcharges. One pylon coming down. Cyclone is on its way out. The Adept trying to get any damage done on these Marines that it can. One pylon actually gets canceled as Bales says, you know what, I actually only need one. Gotta be careful since that Cyclone can do some serious damage against the lock-on on the Mothership Core. Now, the main thing is that Bales wants to get that reactor. That's where a lot of the damage is going to be coming in, but the Oracle also moving in on top of the Marines. Gotta be so careful. The Cyclone gets the lock-on, though, and barely misses the final 2 hits on that Oracle. Second photon overcharge being used. Gonna get the second supply depot as well. I think that Semper's just waiting for that lock-on the Mothership Core once again. Adept. Not gonna let that finish and just backs out. And only invested 1 pylon into this. So far, Bales has had a great opening for this. His Nexus was a little bit delayed, but comparatively, Semper also is not exactly mining from his own command center. He's sitting on relatively even workers. But Bales hasn't lost any of these units, so he can continue to be annoying with these Oracles. He should be able to get some additional damage done. And of course, get additional scouting information out. He has that form of tech with the Stargate, even if, of course, it's a proxy and his opponent knows where it is. Well, wait a second. How did Bales get supply? Oh, the Bales got supply blocked by the pylon not being replaced. Oh, that's a pretty kind of frustrating blunder. Nexus does finish up some of that supply, so he's able to start producing a few more units, but I really think he needs to get out another pylon. Okay, there's the pylon. I'm sure Bales will just be telling me, calm down, Fear Dragon, calm down, man. I'm fine. I'm fine. Just relax. But okay, robotics facility follow-up. Bales is going to transition this out into a more quasi-normal style of play as he continues to rally out Phoenix after Phoenix and keep an eye on his opponent with the double oracles, throwing down some revelations. Should have seen now that there is this move out across the map with a handful of these Marines. And does he realize that there are a few Cyclones in the mix? He does see 2 Cyclones, so he should know exactly what's going on. Starting to prepare with some of these units, but he's getting up a crazy fast robotics bay. Okay, well, these units are moving out over to the Stargate. He's going to take out the pylon, take out the Stargate. This means that these oracles have an opportunity to move into that mineral line and try and get some damage done. Even with the missile turret there, with some good control, the 2 oracles can take out some SCVs, darting back and forth, but not exactly an easy task. So we're seeing that for now, Bales is just focusing in on that macro. Doesn't want to lose those oracles. The provision that they provide and the potential for harassment is almost more important than actually killing the SCVs themselves. And just getting the free damage is, quite frankly, already really good.
Add-on complete.
Gets another revelation off. Love to see even a stasis trap or something thrown down with some of this additional energy. I mean, if you're getting close to capping out on energy, you really do want to spend it. Oh, Oracle's going to get taken out. Scan even being thrown down to keep that high ground vision as Bales tries to avoid it, but does end up losing it. 1 Marine there, just got the 3rd. I like this kind of interesting. It goes for the double sort of preparation for drops coming in from the south side, but love to see something more like the Phoenix on the left-hand side with the drops being prepared on by the Observer. You know, the Observer's over here already. I mean, what are you really scouting for? Your Phoenix are going to be catching things immediately anyways. But Colossus is going to be pumping out. He's sitting rather far behind on upgrades, but he should be able to play catch-up because there's only 1 engineering bay out. So as long as Semper doesn't throw down that 2nd engineering bay anytime soon, Bales won't be too much further behind on upgrades. And overall, with the 3rd expansion finishing up for Semper, it really is just about the fact that I feel Bales has some really nice tech going in his favor, but he just doesn't have quite as good of an economy. Well, double drop is going to be coming in on the north side. Phoenix still sitting in on that south side. The 3rd expansion does finally get taken after that Marine gets cleaned up. You have Widowmine just walking around, burrowing in odd locations, trying to catch the oracles, moving around, and he might actually catch this oracle. Ooh, nice reaction time from Bales. That is much easier, I guess not said than done, but yeah, I guess said than done. Dodging those Widow Mines. Just because you know and you see it doesn't always mean you can react quickly enough, but his 3rd expansion going to be under attack. It's going to lose all of its shields. May actually get canceled over here. Oh, it's definitely getting canceled. Very frustrating loss. Even gets a lot of damage done on the Colossus. Kills it. Kills the Sentry. Kills the Stalker. Kills some of the Adepts as well. Oh my god. Semper getting so much value from this drop. Bales out of position for just a split second. Where was the Magic Core? Magic Core sitting between the natural expansion and the Bane base, which definitely makes sense, but I mean, if you also got the Phoenix over here, it does become a little bit frustrating. I think Bales really on top of all the different potential locations where harassment can come in from, but unfortunately, Semper's just committing a little bit more than Bales is really prepared for with all of these attacks. Now we got a lot of medevacs loaded up. I think Bales, honestly, he's got this Oracle, but he hasn't been able to get any additional revelations off recently. And it's really starting to take its toll. I think he just killed off the other Oracle. Yeah, he just killed off the other Oracle. This Oracle trying to dart around. Look at how much attention Bales has to pay to this Oracle to make sure he doesn't just walk into another Widow Mine. He does manage to get it back over here safely, and is going to try and loop it around in a very roundabout path to avoid any kind of stray Widow Mines that Semper's just been planting around. But 3rd expansion going up again. Scan comes down. Semper might actually just drop on top of this army. He's going to split up a lot of his units by doing so. Force Wheel comes down, but to what end? GG gets called. Semper takes game number 3, bringing the series 2-1 in his favor. Taking 2 games in a row, Semper now takes the lead for the first time in the series and is now 1 game away from moving on to the winner's round of 8. And this is a double elimination bracket, so loser's not going to be totally out of the event entirely. But there's a huge advantage to going through in the winner's bracket. Every win in the winner's bracket actually counts for 2 wins. So you might say, Fear Dragon, how does that work? In the loser's bracket, you play twice as many matches. Let's say a player from the winner's bracket wants to qualify for the main event. Give me a second, I actually need to make the lobby. I keep forgetting that I am the person that's supposed to be making these lobbies. Blood Boil is going to be the next map. Okay. But if you want to qualify for the main event, you need to make it through to the winner's finals. Okay? And once you make it through to the winner's finals, you've qualified. But that only takes about 1, 2, 3 matches. Versus, I think, the 6 or 7 matches you have to play to make it through from the loser's bracket. So getting knocked down in the first round to the loser's bracket is really detrimental to your chances. Neither of these players want to be put in that situation this early on into WCS NA Challenger. But we're getting ready to find out what's going to happen next. Looks like Scarlet ended up winning versus M. Canning. Moss ended up winning versus Silky. We're hopping into game number 4 on Blood Boil. Alright, players are given the go-ahead. Bale says he's ready. We're waiting for Semper. They've asked for a break between every single game, so I'm not sure. Oh no, looks like Semper's saying that he's getting a couple of lag spikes. Hopefully they resolve themselves, but he still won that last game, so he at least also is saying it wasn't horrible. Okay. Looks like Todd is going to be joining us over here, so if you do enjoy Rotterdam and Todd's commentary, as I do, then feel free to check that out as well. I'll make Todd a referee so he can chat with the players in case he wants to, or any of that good stuff. But here we go. We hop into Blood Boil. See you guys there. Come on. Come on, hotkeys. XSplit. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we are hopping into game number 4. It is match point as we start down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. Top of the red Protoss player from Team Elevate. Give it up for Bales. And his opponent spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, we have the purple Terran player from OSC Root. Put your hands together for Semper. Sitting at match point, 1 game away from moving on to the winner's round of 8 and cutting down the number of matches he'd have to win to qualify for the main event by at least 2 games, 2 series. For now, we got pretty normal looking openings. We got only 2 guys in gas over here for Bale, so he does want to take that Nexus, but whoa, what is this? Semper also gonna catch wind of this immediately? What? How? Oh my god, you notice these little guys over here, what is the sight blockers? Oh god, actually hold on. I think that there's like this little bit of a ramp over here. It's kind of hard to tell. You can sort of see a little bit of that incline. I things do kind of get wrapped around when they try and scout around. So they see the gold expansion, and Semper's gonna go for the proxy. Are you kidding me? Semper was telling me him and QXC had come up with some pretty cheeky, fun builds. He goes with the second gas geyser. He's getting a reactor on the barracks after a marine opening, no Reaper. And Bales has no idea about this. This is going to be so difficult for him to defend. And I want to also note, Bales has traditionally been going for the second pylon inside his main base, but this game, he knows he needs that pylon over at his natural expansion. And in this case, it's not the natural, it's the gold expansion he needs it at. Factory is finished up. Armory is on the way. Wait, what? Are we going to be seeing Hellbats? Wait, is this going to be a Thor? No way. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. Are we about to see a proxy Thor? Bales getting out a robotics facility. I mean, theoretically, this is about the best thing he could be asking for. He may be making some immortals to try and deal with this without even realizing that he's going to need those immortals. He may end up making a Warp Prism, which might actually not be that bad. Some good Warp Prism micro. The Thor does not exactly have massive damage against the Warp Prism immediately, at least by the default. It has to change into that kind of direct attack to do additional damage to it. This probe is going to be moving over here. Bales knows something is up. Scouting around. He's actually on an attack move. He's going to follow this SCV away. And he doesn't get a scout out on this. He just barely misses the scout out on the factory. The factory is outside the range of the Zolnagel watch tower, but finally moves in over here. Oh, I don't know what tipped it off, but he sees it. He sees the factory, and, well, he may not actually see what pops out of it. Is he going to leave the probe over here? He might think this is a siege tank or something. An immortal is being made regardless, though. Warp gate technology is being chronobusted out. He has a single stalker and a single adept out. Observer was also made earlier on. That's going to be absolutely 100% useless. Couple of marines being joined in, and here come the SCVs. Thor is here. The observer scouts it out, but is it a little bit too late? Photon overcharges are going to be available. Thor actually whittling away at that Mudship core from a nice little safe distance. Doing some really good damage. Already got it down past its shield. And these units over here are going to have a really hard time moving in. Bales makes a second immortal instead of a Warp Prism. Kind of a difficult decision because that Warp Prism plus one immortal could theoretically do a lot versus this army. But here we go. Probe's also being pulled off the line. Bales knows if he defends over here, he's got a gold expansion. He's taken out most of the workers. Only the Thor is really left around. It's trying to focus right down the immortal, but it's not able to get it. The probes are the full surround, and I think that Bales is going to hold this with flying colors. Oh, Semper, he tries to go for such a cheeky and crazy build. But it seems like Bales gets a little bit of luck of the draw with the robotics facility opening, as opposed to, I really think that Semper was hoping for this to be a Stargate opening, because what is a Stargate opening going to do against this? You make what? Oh, cool. You got an Oracle? I got a Thor. What's your puny little Oracle going to do against this? Adepts are having a little bit of trouble versus the Thor. Oh my god, Thors do a lot of damage, even versus Adept. Is Immortal finally going to be able to get back in the mix? Gets one shot off as it has the shields for it, but oh my god, this Thor cleans up so many Adepts. But eventually, they do get cleaned up. Thor gets canceled. Semper has to lift up and float back home. But Liberator is made as the follow-up. I think that there's 2 Stalkers out, 3 Stalkers out. So these 3 Stalkers theoretically should be enough to help deal with everything. There's also that Mothership Core still alive, and plenty of areas to flush and overcharge and deal with them. Oh, actually, you know, now that I think about it, if the Liberator siege up over here, the Stalkers would have to clean it up, as opposed to just the Mothership Core with Foot and Overcharge. So there's still an opportunity for some damage to be done. Now, breaking a Terran player and going up the ramp is always a bit difficult. But with an Immortal, you knock down those supply depots a lot faster. You can knock down the barracks, cut down some of the supply, actual production. Observer also makes this a lot easier, so Bales can break through this. But a second Liberator is going to be coming out, making things a bit more difficult. Seems like the Liberator did siege up over the gold expansion. Stalker will eventually take care of this. One Liberator gets some serious work done as well. War Prism is finally in the mix, though, and Bales can just elevate her into that natural expansion. Might even be able to catch the command center right before it finishes up, but no, he's going to try and unload over the side first, warp in a few units, and then go for it. I believe that other Liberator, yeah, the Liberator got cleaned up. One Immortal on the lookout. No, Bales! No, he doesn't matter. GG gets called. Bales ties up the series 2-2 with the immaculate defense versus a very weird opening. Okay. Well, that was an interesting game. Semper apparently talking with QXE, and they said they came up with some fun builds, but I know that Semper also said that he wished he had more time to practice them because he really didn't have too much of a chance. So maybe that wasn't quite the execution he wanted. Maybe I think what it seemed a lot more to me like was that he was hoping for a Stargate opening, because I really do feel like a Stargate opening just has so much worse of a chance to defend over there. If you don't have that Immortal, if you have like an Oracle or, God forbid, a Phoenix that you made, oh god, what's a Phoenix gonna do in that situation? Absolutely nothing. Okay. Got everybody in to the lobby. Got Todd here. Players' races are set properly. Let's do this. Abyssal Reef. We're going back to one of the great maps. The great maps. An absolute staple from the last season's map pool. It's still a great map now. Both players are ready. We're doing this. Abyssal Reef. We'll see you guys there. Here we are in our ace match, ladies and gentlemen. Spawn down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. It's the purple Terran player from OSC Root. Give it up for Semper. And his opponent spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, the blue Protoss player. Put your hands together for Team Elevate's Bales. Canada versus United States of America. Semper is 1-6 in series score versus Bales. He has only ever taken one competitive StarCraft series off of Bales. But this is the first time they've played a competitive series in 2017, and 2017 is a new year for both of these guys. Semper looking for the kill. Tried to throw out a little bit of cheese, almost kind of a counter cheese to Bales' attempt in game number 3. None of the guys' cheeses have been working out super well, though. It seems as though both of these guys may just try and play it out into a macro game. I think that may be for the best for both of them. They have both each won one macro game. Bales won one where he got up to that nice ballin' Colossus army. Say ballin' because it is that big death ball. Off of a very, very solid defense against a lot of drop harassment. Blink Stalkers and Colossus. Getting up incredibly good upgrades. Really staying on top of those upgrades. And actually, I think at the end, we had an engagement in game number 1 where Bales had +3 weapons and maybe even +3 armor versus Semper, who was still just finishing up +2 and was actually still sitting on +1 weapons. So, pretty major difference for a little bit. But Semper also had his own really good game. He got up an insane number of Liberators, something that he wasn't really able to do in game number 1 because he kept losing so many of those medevacs, and was able to get into a pretty good spot on Proxima Station, push Bales back into an awkward position, and eventually just take the fights off of some really good harassment that pulled Bales apart. Those Widowmine connections on that game on Proxima were just out of this world good. I'm sure Bales is kind of hitting himself in the head. Just taking some of those big hits there. Not quite having the observer in the correct place. it really could. I know this is just such a trope to say, but it really could go either way in this game. I feel like this is a very evenly matched series, and both of these guys, very, very awesome players that I would love to see more of. Winner is going to go on to face off versus Scarlet, so they got their work cut out for them, but I think either of these players could actually defeat Scarlet as well. They both have it in them. Here we go, though. Reaper gonna get trapped in over here. Gets taken out, but not before it scouts out not only the Twilight Council, but also the robotics facility, securing any kind of final remaining doubts in Semper's mind that this is not a Stargate opening. He's not going to have to worry about any of those shenanigans from Oracles or Phoenix, but this is, again, the same sort of style that Bales played in game number 1 that he was able to take a really nice lead in. He played a fairly greedy style, got up a very quick robotics bay. That was an important thing he did. He went off of kind of that old school style, one gate, Twilight Council, Robo, add on 2 more gateways, robotics facility finishes up, and you just immediately get out that robotics bay off of 3 gateways. We'll see if he does something similar once again. We do have that Widowmine drop. This is all just basically both players reverting back to their kind of most standard style of play. We've seen Semper go for this Widowmine drop time and time again. Bales has had immaculate reactions to them, though. There's the Futron Overcharge. Not target firing down the Widowmine, but pushes things back. He has a second Futron Overcharge ready and available. Semper is not going to commit in just yet, though. And he has this nice little area back over here where Bales cannot easily move in. Bales. Oh, he gets the Futron Overcharge at the exact perfect moment, but look at that hot pickup. Keeps the Widowmine alive. Mid-Photon Overcharge shot. That should have been the killing blow. There's that robotics bay coming down, and once again, Semper scouts it out with the drop, but this time he does keep the Widowmine alive for a little bit. Oh, Bales tries to go for the target fire, ends up losing it, but still might be able to snag the medevac. One final hit is all he needs. He's warping in a Stalker. This medevac is somewhat trapped. I think that one Stalker over here, if he just leaves one Stalker here and one Stalker here, I think he locks it down completely. Only 3 Marines in the mix now, but now the War Prism is also out. We have a Liberator sieging up in the natural expansion. No pylons over here to cover this. Stalkers blink forward, and he loses one of the Stalkers. These Stalkers take 3 attacks, so he can blink out. No, loses another Stalker. He's going to start losing some workers as well. This is not exactly the way that I think Bales wanted that defense to go, but oh man, even the Liberator makes its way on out. I think that the medevac may have been picked off. No, the medevac makes it out alive as Bales pulled a lot of his Stalkers out of position. Behind this, Semper has some siege tanks up for the defense. Solid defensive mechanism against a Protoss player making a lot of Stalkers. And so siege tanks do devastating amounts of damage to... the siege tanks do devastating amounts of damage to the Stalkers. Warp Prism and Liberator just chilling out. Bit of a peace treaty going on over here. I think that this Liberator does so little damage that Bales could have just warped in one Stalker, killed off the Liberator, and walked it back home. Doesn't look like he wants to, though. He doesn't know how far back behind the rest of the army is. Doesn't want this army of Marines just coming in and stimming forward, but stim is not quite finished up anyways, so Bales will be able to get out of there alive with that War Prism and live to harass another day. Thermal Lance finishes up, and Bales did not get his 3rd expansion canceled like he did in some of those previous games. So he's going to be sitting in a really nice economic position. Semper himself has his own 3rd command center finished up. Oh, Stalkers eating a shot to the face. But either way, it's going to be a passive game from both of them. Little bits of harassment attempts from Semper earlier on, but it does lead into both players just trying to get their upgrades up. And this is where we saw Bales take a bit of the lead again in game number 1. I feel like Bales has been better at running away with a lead in these passive games. Getting up things like the double robotics facility, getting up a Templar Archives a little bit faster. Semper is going for the 2nd starport a lot earlier on than he did in that first game, though, and I like this decision. He's going to be able to pump out those Liberators much earlier, and I think once he's able to get up to the 11, 12 Liberator count, that's where things got very scary for Bales. So maybe he's just going to try and handle greed with greed, playing a bit greedier than he did in that first game. Bales is already transitioning out into Disruptors, though. And this is a bit earlier on than he did it in any of the previous games, only stopping at 3 Colossus. And also swapping into some of those charge zealots as well, as opposed to those adepts he was making earlier. Speaking of which, these charge zealots going to be revealing charge and dropping in relatively shortly. One liberator, that's not actually enough DPS to stop these from dropping in. I think Stalker also catches one of the Marines poached forward. I like that Semper keeps just moving forward with some of these Marines. Keep an eye out on where the army could be. Doesn't want to reveal that his entire army is over here just yet. This is so awkward because Semper has vision of this, and Bales also has vision of this, but they're both so preoccupied. Okay, Semper pushing forward. Sees the Stalkers. He's going to lose the Marine. Hasn't seen the rest of the army, though. That's important, because otherwise, Semper could have picked up and got over to the natural expansion or something. Only encountered 2 photon cannons. Looks like that War Prism did finally back off. Seeing that there was a Liberator on patrol. Why is Volts in the chat, man? Volts, don't you have games to play? You're one of the players in WCS Challenger. Oh, man. I guess you're waiting for your next series or something. Okay, Semper continuing to poke forward, but this Observer over here for Bales has been so valuable. Semper realizing, okay, wait a second. You're in position a little bit too often. Scans and snipes that off, and now moves into the main base, where he's going to be able to find both of the forges. A lot of Stalkers immediately joining the fray, though, and double photon overcharge also going to be able to take care of this. Medevac's going to get focus fire down, and even though some of the Stalkers may end up losing their lives, they get it at a good cost. Actually, I don't even think maybe one Stalker ended up dying over there. Absolutely worth it for Bales. Gets a bit supply blocked, kind of annoyingly, but... Has he researched Storm just yet? No, he's had the Temple Archives for a while, and okay, not a lot of anti-air. This army just... Boost and stim, get out of there. There's a big Protoss Death Army here. Gonna be joined in by those Stalkers, and this may be the moment that Bales is finally looking for. Going in for the big attack. He's got +2/+2, and look at how much further behind Semper's is. Semper only recently finished up that armory, it seems like, and just now starting up +2/+2 weapons. Bales could take a massively favorable engagement with some good positioning, but he needs to make sure he doesn't get eaten alive by these Liberators. We've seen that really cause some problems for Bales in some of these games, but Abyssal Reef has a lot of opportunities for moving in from different angles. War Prism also moves into the main base. Seems like the Liberator is able to clean it up, but the Zealots still wreaking havoc. Taking out the reactor. I like it. I like it. Now moving in over here. Disruptor also causing some damage. Not going after the SCVs, interestingly enough. And that one Zealot still doing some damage, but does eventually get cleaned up. Unfortunately, it takes a lot longer than I think Semper really wants it to clean those up. Stalkers blink forward, taking out the siege tank, but eats a lot of hits in the meanwhile. Oh my god, that Disruptor hit almost obliterating so much of the army. Still gets a pretty decent hit, but could have killed off almost 30, 40 army supply there. Semper does not exactly have a great track record versus Disruptors. If there's one criticism I have to say about Semper is that he does not seem to like Disruptors. He's got a track history of not exactly splitting versus Disruptors, but just stimming and running away from them. And that doesn't always work out if you react a little bit too late. Bales, interestingly enough, not going after the rocks. I would love to see him knock down these rocks and just open, because I feel like the big problem is he's getting funneled in wherever he goes. And the longer he waits, the more this Liberator count is going to be building up. It's already up to almost 8 or 9 Liberators now. And the ghosts are being added in. This is the big scary point where Bales had a lot of trouble breaking in through Semper's army in Proxima Station. Couple Stalkers blink forward. No, Bales not able to make this work. He's not going after the rocks either. Now Semper on the other side of the map cancels the 5th expansion, running into the 4th. Scan coming down, 2nd scan coming down, takes out the DTs. Some well upgraded Zealots will make this very difficult for Semper to break in through. As you can see, Zealots are quite effective when it's 3-3 versus 2-2. A few more Zealots being warped in. Photon Overcharge also be thrown out. Bales, he has to tech it now into the Tempest. He's got up the Fleet Beacon. As he just finished that up. He's going to start double Tempest production, but this is going to be so much later than I think he really wanted it to. Well, this is turning into a bit of a macro game, but I feel like I just have a bit of favoritism going towards Semper because Bales has been taking relatively even trades. Okay, well, those are some nice trades, killing off a couple of free ghosts. But overall, Bales has been taking relatively even trades, I feel. Actually, slightly unfavorable trades. And this is when he's had better upgrades and arguably a better tech, but now, with all the Liberators and the Ghosts out, Bales is going to be slightly behind in tech. Those upgrades are eventually going to be caught up with. There's a point of diminishing returns where you just can't tech up anymore in terms of upgrades. You can't maintain that lead. There's no 4-4 for you to go to. Couple Zealots getting caught. Liberator sieging up. I think Bales is trying to take a fight on more open ground where these Liberators can't just siege up the army at a choke. Oh, Stalker's catching a few of them. Gets one at the cost of a Stalker. It's not a bad trade for Bales, but really wants some better trades. This is where he's going to start to whittle away at the army. But again, 4 Tempest, I think, is really more of a magic number. 5 Tempest is what you really want. The Tempest even started to take some damage. This is where Viking production begins. We already have 6 Vikings out. Only a few with the army, if any. He has 1 with the army. Tempest can't take out those Vikings in that kind of low in numbers. And Bales is clumping up his army so much. These EMPs can be devastating to him if he's not careful. I like this. Zealot run by at the top with a War Prism also there. Can take out the Ghost Academy. That would be a nice pickoff. Slow down some of that production. Any Ghost that Semper then loses is going to be harder to replenish for a little bit. I also like the Zealots kind of warping in. I would love to see actually even some Stalker harassment from the low ground with a War Prism, but not going to quite happen. Double medevac drop also making its way up over here. Seems like finally we have Storm being researched. No High Templars out just yet. I think he just warped in 2. Start to build up some energy on those. And a couple of free pickoffs here and there. So he is all about that late game Protoss and Terran Micro. That back and forth battle. Oh, the Tempest! All get EMP'd as well as some of those Stalkers, but good chunk of the Ghosts end up dying as well. And I think that the Ghost Academy did survive. It did, in fact, survive. 575 hit points left over. And Bales is starting to make some progress, but at the same time, losing the 5th expansion is not going to be the progress he really wants. He's not quite maxed out. He's going to actually make another Temp. He starts up another Tempest. I really think he would have been better suited for some DT Warpins or something to deal with this, but no. Loses the 5th expansion. That's a pretty hard loss to suffer right now, as I think the economy was a really big part of his army. Oh, God, he's taking some massive EMPs as well in this army. And the double drop is still going to be able to continue forward and do additional damage. Potentially even snipe off some of the Tempests as they get rallied forward. Well, the bright side is Bales lost a handful of his worker supply, so now he can warp in some more units over here. Oh, no, but the Zealot's on a move command instead of an A move. Ends up losing almost all of them. And trading out I mean, he's got a mineral bank, so it's not the end of the world, but really, he doesn't want to be taking trades like this. It's almost a psychological failure that really ends up adding up. It's already a tense situation with the army control being so important. You don't want to feel like you're miscontrolling at this point, because that will just snowball. Okay, Zealot harassment coming in on the right-hand side of the map once again. Not target firing down the Ghost Academy, but we'll get some of the supply depots. Starting to push on forward. The Liberator count is reduced down to just 1.
Game pause.
And Semper goes for the pause. So much lag, he's saying. Well, taking a look. Well, we're on Central, as you can see over here. I have 71 ping. I don't know what the deal is. So this is a West Coast versus East Coast of North America battle. So Semper is coming from US East. Bale's playing from the Root Gaming House on US West. This is exactly where they should be. Spikes every 2 seconds. That is really unfortunate. Just let me know when to unpause. Okay, go. So, looks like we're just gonna resume. Ghost Academy gets down to burning. It's gonna start to slowly die. This is gonna be a really intense battle because now not only are they dealing with the kind of stresses of one army engagement, one bad play can really just cost you the entire game, but now there's a little bit of that latency yet to deal with. Vikings actually getting some pretty good shots off on these Colossus. Don't quite get the kills though. That High Templar also looking for some good storms. I like the fact that Bales is splitting those off from the rest of his army. Even if this army gets completely EMP'd down by some of these ghosts, he's going for the disruptor shots on them. Okay, get some disruptor shots off on the planetary fortress. A big army of marauders and a handful of marines coming in. Oh, Bales might catch wind of this. No, they just barely do not see each other. I think he may have caught a half a second glimpse, but definitely not enough. Storm's going down, but not quite able to catch a majority of the army. One marauder going for broke on the Colossus, not able to get it. And this is where, okay, well, Marine's not in high enough numbers to deal with 4 Tempests, but I think they could have probably just gone in on something. Either way, though, I don't blame him for not, or for just backing off. Ghost gets taken out. No massive EMPs happening, but these Vikings reigning supreme as most of the Tempests seem to be back at home. Looks like another weapons upgrade, plus 3 air weapons. Is this the point where you start thinking about carriers? I know traditionally you don't think about carriers, but plus 3 air weapon carriers, you do so much damage. You can actually legitimately have a big death army on that. And he does have the economy, I think, to support it. Zell's getting taken out, though. Semper able to push in a little bit further forward. Bale's looking for another angle. Might catch Semper slightly out of position over here. Semper, he's been able to remax that army. He's got 6 more Liberators now. But only 2 of them are here and sieged up. Ghost having to back up. This one has a lot of energy for EMPs. He's gotten massive EMPs down on this army. Specifically on a lot of those Colossus that can now be one-shot by some of these Vikings. Now that they don't have that shields, those shields. Liberator sieging up behind the mineral line. Look at that photon cannon defense. Bales knows he does not want to lose that 5th expansion anymore. Tempest going down. Colossus also taking some hits. The disruptor count is consistently pretty high from Bales. So he's been losing some of the Colossus here and there. Losing a Tempest here and there. But these disruptors have been providing some serious value. And this might actually have been the, I'm going to take a look at the bracket really quickly. Is this the last remaining round of 16 match? No, looks like, no, yeah, this is the last remaining one. We had Peely advance on. We had Jon Snow advance on. So Peely beat Panda Bear Me. Jon Snow defeated Raze. We had Scarlet advance off over M. Canning. Puck falling to game time. And True defeating Volts. Okay, but here we go. Semper kind of committing in a little bit further there. Loses a lot of these Vikings. And what a stalemate. Bale's also very interesting, leaving a lot of these kind of very valuable units back at home. And I'm not sure if this is entirely just for the defense or also just to make sure he has some army left around if he takes a bad trade. He still has something to buy some time. Oh, Disruptor's killing his own zealots. Getting some good trades versus the Liberators. In terms of a straight up cost, it looks pretty even in terms of minerals. Bales is definitely trading out better in terms of gas units. Semper has a much bigger mineral and gas bank now, though. Liberators putting in some serious work. The Tempests are starting to go down. The last storm does clean up a lot of the Vikings. But Bale has enough Tempest left over, and the Vikings are softened up enough that Bales can finally start to get some of that free damage done. A consistent poke forward. It's been a while since I've seen a PvT like this. They usually don't go into this kind of stage of the game Finally, we see the Oracle coming out, tossing out those revelations, providing some extra vision. Semper does know about this army moving in from the north side. Getting in behind the mineral line. Actually, zero SCV is actually taking any damage right now. But these Liberators getting taken out slowly but surely. Really good trade. I'm really starting to favor Bales in terms of this army control. You can see Semper has had to spend a lot of that bank he had earlier. And granted, the banks are looking pretty even. Bales, I feel like, is gradually looking a little bit better. Planetary fortresses do make the defense substantially easier, whereas Bales, if he wants to commit to a defense, he has to do something like this. And even warp in a couple of extra units over here for the Stalkers to deal with Liberator harassment. Vikings taking little bits of chip damage from the Tempest and the High Templar. Scarlet must be getting bored waiting for her match. Oh. Oh my god! Oh my god! Bales! Bales! What are you doing? Bales goes in with a move command! Loses one of the Tempest, loses a second Tempest, a third Tempest is gonna go down. These Vikings eating a lot of the storms. Can Bales counteract the damage that he just took? Oh, finally cracking under the pressure, but he actually takes an okay trade there. Oh my god, that could have gone devastating. That could have been devastating. But somehow he's up in supply now. I don't know how he does it. +2 shield upgrades research. You could go for +3. +3 shields. Useful for not only the Archons and the ground army, but also those air units. Applies to everything. Even applies to your buildings. That's how damn strong those shield upgrades are. Man, Bales just cannot break through, though. I feel like he needs to try and starve Semper out. Semper is starting to get slightly starved out. This bottom base is his only real effective mining base. Semper is going to try and shut down this base at the top side. You notice that Bales has been the one that's been aggressive for a majority of this game now. This kind of late game army control has mostly been about just Bales putting the pressure on Semper. And wait a second, I'm seeing Poison saying that Neeb got 3-0'd by Masa. Are you kidding me? Holy cow, ladies and gentlemen. That is not what I think most people were expecting. But he did defeat him 4-3 this past Sunday. Really nice EMPs coming down, by the way. I think he didn't quite catch all of the High Templar. I think there's still 2 High Templar with almost enough energy for a storm. No, looks like one of these guys doesn't have any energy. The other one does. Yeah, this guy will have energy soon. He's Tempest, though, finally getting taken out. Stalker count's not that high either, so another Tempest does lose its life. Bales is still leading up about 30 supply, and with fewer workers, that means a much larger army supply. He's still mining from this base. He's got this base now finally settled. He can start mining from it soon. Semper gonna try and take this base. This really is gonna be about the economy. It's about production and shutting down your opponent's future bases. Semper's doing his best to lock off this area. Bales needs to find a way around. Maybe move down this ramp and start pushing it over here. Cut off Semper and take out this base. He does not want to let this get up in mining, because that is when Semper can really start to stage a bit of a comeback. I like this. Zealot harassment on the right-hand side of the map. Going to be very difficult for Semper to deal with. And it may not seem like a big deal, because it's not necessarily about taking out the workers or even the orbital commands, because orbital commands will probably lift up, but taking out things like the Ghost Academy, taking out the production is going to be very annoying for Semper to ever replace. Even just being in position to deal with this is going to be annoying. Orbital command is getting surprisingly low on health, but Zealots are going to try to move in and engage against the bio. Ghost does a lot of damage to these Zealots, though, so Bales finally gets into a position. He cuts off this army from the new base, but I don't think that Bales realizes there's a new base over there. He's trying so hard to push in. Oh, that's a beautiful disruptor hit. He's got a lot of Zealots behind this as well. If he just moves in a little bit higher up to the high ground, he's going to scout out this base. At the same time, it looks like some Liberators, some drop harassment, something over at the top side does get cleaned up, but Bales is still not mining from that base. Big EMPs go off on this army, but there's no cleanup force over here for Semper. Semper is falling further and further supply. He moves in with the Liberators. He's going in with the Vikings. This is going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. Bales cleans up this army. The Tempest survive, the Colossus survive, the Disruptors survive, and the Ghosts go down. I think that Bales may have finally broken through. Even though Semper is starting to make some progress over here, pushing this army back, I don't think he can replenish this army anymore. Bale just needs to realize he can move in and kill off the last real effective mining base that Semper is going to have after this base starts to die off. Disruptor is getting some okay hands off. He's actually losing a lot of these Disruptors at the front line. One more storm available. Semper is starting to make a hold. Oh my god, the Planetary Fortress is going to hold. It's going to hold alongside the Siege Tank that's up to 5 kills now. There's some Zealot harassment still going on. This Zealot has been going strong. This might actually be even 5 building kills, because this Zealot has been here for freaking forever. Vikings landing to deal with Zealots. That's not something you see every day. These Zealots on a focus fire? No. Okay, well, some of these Vikings are going to end up falling to Zealots. It's really not where you want to be. Really, really not life goals right now for Semper. Oh, Bales, if he gets close enough to throw a Disruptor shot in this mineral line. Okay, he's cutting off Semper from the mineral mining. This is what I was talking about doing, what he probably wanted to do with this base, but he's going to be able to do it with this one. GG, well played, gets called. Semper taps out, and Bales takes the series 3-2, advancing on to the winner's round of 8. Congratulations to Bales. Whoa, what a series. Holy cow. This is WCS NA Challenger, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are enjoying this. We're going to hop to a break while we find our next series, as they're literally, some of the round of 8 matches are already finished. Peely versus Jon Snow is happening right now. Oh my god, how am I not in this game? Are they in game right now? Please tell me. Please tell me they're like, I'm catching up between games. Jon Snow's been in the custom game for 8 minutes. We're going to find out if we can hop into that. If not, we'll hop into Game Time versus True. Or maybe even just Bales versus Scarlet. Or, yeah, so we'll be back in a little bit. Thank you so much for watching WCS NA